What's going on, folks? Another edition of Boxing Chit. We also have Boxing Chit TikTok, because we're doing it like that these days. Of course, you know why we're here. We're here to talk boxing as always. And a great night of boxing it was that we were commenced in, or at least some of the people were commencing in, some of the athletes were commencing in last night. And then as fans, we got to tune into it, I should say. But anyway, I'm here with, of course, Boz holding it down from across the Atlantic. So what's going on with your Boz?
Not much really. It's a great day. We've had a really lovely week, but now it's getting kind of rainy and gray again. Yeah, you
Oh
don't
yeah,
like that, but that's how it goes.
yeah. We had a crazy amount of rain yesterday here, but it seems to have subsided. The sun
Right.
is out there now, so I'm guessing great things in store for the rest of the week. But we'll see how it goes. Anyway, of course, we're here to talk boxing, so we appreciate everyone that drops by. Those that are going to be listening in the aftermath. We appreciate you as well. We, of course, enjoy the dialogue. I'm going to keep this thing jumping. So let's jump into the big one, the big fight of the weekend, and arguably, and it may come to be the biggest fight of the year, and that's Gervonta Tank Davis taking on Ryan KingRy Garcia. It went down in Las Vegas, Nevada at the T-Mobile Arena. And there was a lot of hype surrounding this fight. Apparently, it sold out in 5 minutes. That shows you the fanfare. I had heard some numbers early on of ringside seats going for around 15,000 plus, maybe even some craziness like that. But of course, those are typically uh, in line for the celebrities and such. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. But that's crazy to think from a buzz perspective. So we know that both of them brought fans to the table. Tank back in January had around 19,000 plus here in DC at the Capital One Arena. Used to be Verizon Arena, but Capital One Arena. So that
Mm.
shows that he has the fanfare. I think that Ryan Garcia brings some form of fanfare. Also, um, I think that both of them together just provided the type of excitement and the what if that we were initially seeking when 135 essentially started to gain these individuals who were young and seemingly next in line for title contention. And so this is actually the first of them as far as that matchup between the four that we were calling the next up, which was Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, Teofimo Lopez, and Devin Haney. So of that
Yeah.
combination, this was the first of those fights, and this has been about 3 years or so. So we finally got it, and it ended up being a seventh round stoppage, I believe it was, when Gervonta landed a body shot that sent Ryan down and out for the count, essentially. And it
Hmm.
was a nice left to the kidney. Well, maybe not the kidney, but it landed in there close to
Hmm.
it, and it dropped Brian, and he couldn't get up for the count. So knockout officially is what it will be listed as. But what did you think about the overall environment, atmosphere, and the fight itself, there, Boz?
Oh, it was nothing short of spectacular fireworks, all the way. I think, and yeah, there were quite many. I think. Well, I could see there were many Gervonta fans, but also, of course, there were quite many Mexican Ryan
Mm-hmm.
Garcia fans, and yeah, it was simply a fight where the slightly older, more experienced Gervonta Davis, he just was his experience and his I would say it, ring guile and everything. It just proved to be the decisive factor. His ability to land that one perfect punch, which Garcia could not get away from. And Garcia put on a good performance, but he was a little bit too aggressive for his own good.
Yeah.
And but being a puncher, that's how it goes often. Punchers just cannot sit back, or how you say, stand back and wait and be cautious. They see a chance and they take it. They try to knock their guy out.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was a good lesson for Garcia, no doubt. because he was obviously very cocky. He thought he could just conquer everything. But now, of course, it was not at his preferred weight, 140. And I don't know if that played any difference. Maybe not so much, but anyway,
Yeah,
he just simply got a lesson that he will probably, I hope, he will take some, something from it and build himself up to be a better fighter, perhaps.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I share similar sentiment. I did, thinking about the weight thing coming into it, I thought it would be a factor, but it didn't seem to be a factor to me. This just looked like the case of Gervonta's IQ
yeah,
coming into play there at the tail end of the fight around the time that the stoppage came about. Because I feel from, excuse me, round two on, he had full control. Well, he had control up until that last round where I did think that, or the round before the last round where I did think that Ryan seemed to be starting to get back into it.
yeah,
And I thought that initially coming into it, I thought the fight would go the distance, to be honest with you. And it seemed like it might be headed down that path after Ryan was dropped and he got up. He seemed more composed and he wasn't going in as aggressively. But
mm,
Gervonta, hey, he maintained his composure and he was able to counter Ryan, which I thought played a big role
yeah,
in why he was able to gain the lead. And taking that into account, I felt that this showed that Tank certainly has the boxing skills to make it interesting with anyone. Not just in addition to his punch, because uh, Ryan's aggressiveness was countered by him maintaining his composure, him keeping up his guard, knowing when to grab, knowing when to push off, etc., etc. And for
mm,
Garcia, he wasn't able to land those hooks in the same fashion that he has been with, I guess
yeah,
you could say, some lesser opponents or whatever it may be. Now, he did catch Tate with some pretty solid shots, and Tate took them well. So we haven't seen him truly hurt. There was one good one that seemed to buzz him a little bit, but for the most part, Tate was able to maintain himself. So I think
yeah,
that you taking all things into consideration, this being a pay per view and all, I ended up getting it, and I think that the main event lived up to the hype to a certain degree. I do think that the main event lived up to the hype, and of course, the co-main, it wasn't necessarily, and it was kind of a, well, we know what Morel is, and it wasn't an even matchup in that sense since it was short notice and all. But overall, yeah, I thought that the main event probably was the marquee fight, and sometimes it's a situation where the undercards may have a fight or two that performs better or whatever. But in this case, I thought
mm,
the best fight of the night was actually the main event, and that's Garcia Davis.
mm,
Now, of course, the knockout of the night could be considered David Morrell, but I don't think Falcao had a chance or
mm.
whatever just from the jump.
No,
But it is what it is. It's one of those things.
yeah, yeah, he was a Falcao was simply overmatched, and it showed very quickly. I mean, he tried to stay in the fight and mount something in return, but he was just overmatched and destroyed really quickly, and that was a pretty bad knockout. I mean, he was just out there. He looked out cold, and I hope he
Hmm.
will he will be fine because that can of course damage a fighter, especially at that age. He's like 35, and I mean Morel is
Hmm.
simply he's a beast, and I mean you don't really match him up against the guys like that. But as you said, it was like a last minute thing that Falcao was not supposed to fight Morel. Well, he had to take, or he did take that fight
Yeah,
to
yeah, right.
his to his damage. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah,
Morel
I
was
think that, of course, yeah, all factors into when you're going about matchups and things of that nature. You have to think about that. So I knew that it was a heavy favorite betting wise for David Morrell. Again, this is a co-main. He knocked out his opponent
yeah,
in one round essentially, but it wasn't even a contest. But That aside, the other two fights on the card, they were decent, decent, nothing to write home about. I thought that Melakusiev versus Rosado
Yeah.
would go a bit differently, but this fight didn't live up to the hype or at least the expectation of Beck the Bully going in there and bullying Rosado.
Yeah, it was a
And I think the verdict's out. Of course, we know that Beck the Bully is the better fighter. I don't think they need a trilogy or anything of that nature to try and confirm
no.
anything. We know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, first time he got a little, but he just got caught, by surprise, and he was dominating. Then also, and here I actually got into that broadcast in the fifth round, but he was really, I mean, he delivered a beat down to Rosado. I mean, there all credit to Rosado for staying there and lasting the distance, but he was really dominated and beaten up and. By a
Yeah.
stronger fighter, a younger, stronger, fighter who also has the athleticism, the agility, all that. I didn't kind of like that. The Melikuzia was like sticking his tongue out to
Oh
Osada
yeah.
and stuff like that. That didn't look so gentlemanly, but you know those
Yeah.
guys, I mean, everybody hates to lose, especially to a guy like Rosado, who he was supposed to beat. So
Mhm.
the pride, that's the pride.
Yeah, that was definitely a bit of that, him trying to play up on things, knowing that of course this is the blemish on his record. This is the nightmare he had to get past, and of course he did so in flying colors. It wasn't very
Yeah,
competitive on Rosado's front. That being
no,
said, he's one of those guys that is tough. So Beck didn't get him out of there. I guess that counts for something. But as far as
yeah,
Rosado in general, yeah, he's at that stage, and he's been at this stage for a while where he's like a stepping stone sort of gatekeeper
yeah.
for those new guys coming up. He's
And
taken
you
a
don't
lot of
want to be that.
punishment. He's taken a
Yeah,
lot of punishment just over the course of his career overall. Some of it some pretty darn tough stuff that he had to go through, and some of the
mm,
opponents last night kind of adds to that, where he wasn't very competitive, just taking a ton of shots. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here.
yeah. I don't know if he will retire, but I don't see him lasting that much longer in the sport, especially at top level. I mean, he
Yeah,
can go on fighting, nobodies. That would be probably better for him. Less damage and more wins and all that.
yeah, yeah, without a doubt. Real quick, shout out to Martin Dunstan, who comes in and
Hey,
says, "Good evening,
Martin.
gentlemen. Hope you're well." Appreciate
Yeah,
you, Martin. We're good. We're good. Appreciate having you here as always. We enjoy the connection for sure,
yeah,
for sure. So, thanks, Martin. Now, yeah, Rosado, yeah, interesting place. Yeah, maybe retirement looms. Time will surely
yeah.
tell.
He's 37, I believe now already. Yeah, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's somewhere in there certainly, and
mm,
yeah, time will tell. But I think, yeah, retirement may loom here at some point very soon. But
yeah, that's kind of the age where most boxers retire. They were 37 or
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That is true. Generally, yeah, there have been a number who when you look at the history and all, especially back in the day, a number of fighters were burnt out by the time they even got to their 30s because of the sheer amount of fights
yeah,
and things of that nature. Their early 30s or hit 30, and a lot of them were retired
yeah.
right around there. We've seen more of individuals kind of fighting at an older age these days, and there have been some of those in the history that kind of did the same thing, but
Well,
certainly there are levels to it without a doubt.
it's maybe down to the fact that the medical side is a little bit stronger now, than it
Yeah.
was in the sport, but also, fortunately, also the illegal stuff, the
Oh yeah.
substances going on, and well, I don't know really. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
accuse
some of
anybody.
that is probably in the mix there
Yeah,
too.
you can ask Victor Conte all about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Victor Conte, yeah, infamous name in the sport of or any sport really. He's
Yeah,
definitely an interesting name. But yeah, that being said, yeah, good, decent card, I guess you can say overall going to the preliminaries pay per view. I mean, the fight was worth the hype, the top level one, but as far as being stacked, yeah, it wasn't really stacked to that degree. And I guess there's an expectation. There's only so much of the pot to go around, but we've been seeing more and more of these pay per views as of late. And
yeah,
it seems like for the big name fighters, that's the route it's going to be, regardless of the fact that you're already paying for or tied to a streaming service. This is like an add on. Now, my understanding is for the zone customers in the UK, it wasn't pay per view, but for the US, it's pay per view. And I know it could be the
right.
opposite for certain cars and things of that nature that take place here in the US that are broadcast over there, the UK, Europe, etc., other spots. I believe that to be the case in terms of what I had heard, just thinking about or seeing some comments and such on
But
Twitter and other social
yeah,
media, etc. Additionally, I saw something that alluded to the price being different on the Zone versus Showtime. Now, I didn't
all
look
right.
at the Showtime price, but I know for the Zone, the pay per view was $60, which I find to be reasonable this day and age
Mm,
compared to where it has come from and where it has gone. So
yeah,
I know a number of
like
them are usually like $75 or something, somewhere around
yeah,
there. So my understanding is that the Zones was cheaper than the Showtime pay per view. That being said, I
right.
got it from the Zone because I had already been in the Zone watching the card that they had over in Sheffield, England. But pay per view seems to be here to stay.
But was it only the main fight that was pay per view or the whole card? Because
Mm.
I don't think I had also I could watch maybe anyway I did watch those two fights without pay per view Morel and Melikuziev.
Hmm.
Maybe that wasn't or was that also supposed to be pay per view? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was yeah, those were on the undercard of the main pay per view.
All right, undercard. So they are not in USA either. They are you can watch them without pay per view, right?
No. These were
Oh,
part of the pay per views. They had
all
another
right.
preliminary card that they
So
showed
that's why.
on YouTube. They had a YouTube preliminary card. This I forget who headlined. I forget who headlined that. I don't know if I was actually seeing the preliminary for. Oh yeah, I did see it. It was on Showtime's thing. I forget Vito Milnicki. He was one of the fighters that fought on there. But they had on the broadcast. They had Brian Campbell and his and that Errol Hawani MMA
Oh,
guy. It was an annoying broadcast over there.
right.
I don't know why they put the MMA guy Errol Hawani on there, who
Yeah, I was like, what's he doing there? Like, isn't
they should
he
have
an
had Luke
MMA?
Thomas there, who's typically there with Brian. I think that
I
would have
mean,
made it better.
Mauro.
But that being
I
said,
mean, Mauro Ronaldo. He has done both, but he
yeah,
at
he's good
least
to
he's
go.
better at boxing. He knows, so his stuff with boxing, and he's a much less annoying guy than Helwani.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. And shout out Hyphy in the building, baby. Let's get it. Hyphy says, interesting note. In the USA, multiple pay per view buyers had issues with their pay per view. After making the pay per view purchase, the pay per view wasn't accessible, forcing potential
Oh
buyers to watch
man.
illegal stream. Interesting. I did see something about that floating around Twitter there, Hyphy. Now, I don't know if that was both for the Zone and Showtime, I guess, depending on how it was procured. But I ended up getting mine through the Zone, and I didn't have any issue except one time the screen went green, but it was only for about 2 seconds. Outside of that, the stream was perfectly fine on my end. Now I don't know how it ended up being as far as the Showtime feed or pay per view, because I believe it was multiple platforms. But I do know that I was seeing some stuff on Twitter where some people were complaining about the actual feed, the pay per view feed, and what they had purchased for sure. So that is very interesting. You would think that
Hmm.
that stuff would be kind of locked in and they'd have everything tied down at that particular point, that go live point. But hey, I guess you never know in some sense. So that is very interesting.
Yeah, it's like I mean, it's like they're saying, "Oh, the pay-per-view isn't so expensive, so that's what you get for." It may not work because it's not very expensive. That really sucks. I imagine
Yeah.
paying for something then you don't get that stuff. I mean, nothing worse that can happen.
Okay,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
Martin Dunstan says the zone in the UK anyway did say they wouldn't go pay per view and show top fights to subscribers, but they changed their promise. And if you want to see big, you gotta pay big. Yeah, that is true. Hey, that was what they touted here too, Martin. I recall that's what was being touted, that no longer would they have to do the pay per views. And of course, at that time, it was a little different situation. Hold on real quick. I
Hmm.
got a fellow boxing guy. Hey, what's going on, Alden? Oh, the fight was great. If you want to talk about it, I'm actually on the podcast. I want you to come on. We can talk about it right now. All right, I'm gonna shoot you a StreamYard link. All right, good to go. Good to go. I got you. Right. So, all right, yeah, sorry about that. Got my guy Alden CHodash. He was calling to ask about
Oh
the fight.
yeah,
We're gonna get Alden on because I think
Alden,
he'll be
yeah,
good for the mix right here as we talk about what went down because we had talked about it here. And Alden, of course, he is a boxing official as well. I work with Alden here in this area. He's the chief of officials for the actual. He's the chief of officials for Virginia, the state of Virginia. So for the amateur boxing, you have these different officials in charge who are like the chiefs or whatever it may be. And for Alden, that is the case. He is the chief of officials there. So slight interjection there, but
nice.
I think it'll be a good addition to hear his thoughts on how the fight went down.
Yeah. Mm.
So good to go. But yeah, interesting stuff though surrounding the whole pay per view and the ability of individuals to or some individuals having it go out. But yeah, also like we were saying, yeah, I do think, and we kind of talked about this, Martin, right before it came about, or a little bit earlier. We were mentioning the fact that yeah, everything is kind of pay per view these days for the
Yeah.
big fights, but they did peddle a similar thing here in the US that it was not going to be pay per view for everything. But of course,
Mhm.
that seemingly has backtracked at this point, and
and
I guess you
and
could say
like
it was kind of expected. But not only that,
yeah.
the price has also gone up. I don't know if you've seen,
Mm.
but the actual the zone, and they've procured these new sports leagues and things of that nature, but they're about to hike the price from 99 a year. I think that's what it paid now. If you do the one thing, it's going to be like 200 and something, like 249 a year or something like that, which is
I was
insane.
was gonna say, and when you wanna watch these streams, what I don't like, they often put up links on YouTube. But there you have to register first, and then if you do, you get some annoying emails like until you unregister, and then I don't wanna, I never wanna do that. If I have to register, forget about it.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's insane. It's just
yeah,
insane just thinking about where things are going. Real quick, shout out to Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz and
hey,
more. Salute, Bruce. We appreciate having you drop by. Be sure to go check out Bruce. A lot of good content over there. Bruce Gas, the name says it all. You want to be entertained? Check out old Bruce holding it down over there. Excuse me. And now we're about to bring in Bods. We're gonna bring in Alden CHodash. Uh, he is the chief of officials for Virginia, as mentioned, and we're gonna talk about what happened here uh, last night in between Garcia. and Tank.
Tank.
We want to get
Cool.
his thoughts. But it's not just that. But Alden is also with. He's also with the Fight City. So bringing you in there, Alden. Appreciate you dropping by. Let me fix this little banner here. This little this branding banner. Take that off of
Thanks
there.
so
But
much for
anyway,
having me on.
yeah. Welcome, Alden. Welcome. Appreciate having you. As I was mentioning, the chief of officials for Virginia here, Alden CHodash, but he's also runs a podcast and he's a writer over there for the Fight City. So check out thefightcity.com. Check out the Fight City podcast, which Alden hosts. And he's very much in the mix there in the boxing world. But yeah, we were sitting here talking about what went down yesterday, Alden. We're talking about, of course, the big fight being Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. He just so happened to call, so it was like, hey, why not? Let's bring Alden on to get his thoughts, which will be some great insight. So, how's it going for you, buddy?
It's good. It's long overdue. I've been meaning to try to join you guys. You guys got a great thing going on, and very thankful that you allowed me to share my thoughts on the podcast. I mean, last night it was like watching two rattlesnakes fight each other. That's kind of the impression I get when I see Tank Davis fight a guy like Ryan Garcia. In this case, it was really all Tank Davis. I thought, Ryan Garcia had the right idea in the first round, coming out, fighting at long range, but he got a little greedy in the second round, and after he got caught with that left hand, he really kind of shelled up, I thought. I mean, he had a good round in the sixth round, but Davis was all superior to him. Obviously, he was the stronger guy, and he got him out with a body shot, which is something I kind of feel foolish for not predicting earlier, basically. Not only because Ryan Garcia is tall and thin, but because he had to get down to 136 and he couldn't get past 146 per the contract's free hydration clause. So the writing was on the wall that a body shot could be pivotal, and that's what ended the fight.
Hey, great point right there. Alden. Real quick, shout out to Fight Night Scores, who says, "Evening, fellas. Hope you're both good. Salute to you, Fight Night Scores. Appreciate you dropping by, buddy. And if you don't know, everyone, check out fight-score.com. It's the most comprehensive scoring system that is out there. And I'm not just throwing smoke or blowing smoke. This is the actual truth. We're on there. We do scoring parties, all that good stuff. You get to actually see the reasoning behind certain rounds going towards a particular fighter. So fight-scores.com, and follow them on YouTube, Fight Night Scores. So appreciate having you in here, Jim. But yeah, good stuff there, Alden. As mentioned, yeah, that body shot is what did it in. Coming into the fight, I did think that the whole weight thing would play a factor to a certain degree, but Ryan did look pretty fluid in there, though I don't think it was to the degree that would have been initially thought, or that I initially thought. So I thought he had his moments. He was doing well in some of those moments, and he was aggressive, which I like that plan of him coming out being aggressive, because some people probably weren't expecting that. And like you said, he got a little bit too cocky, got caught. I thought he took that first knockdown well. And it was a question of how was he going to react when he's hit by someone like Tank. I think he took it well, and he was in there. I thought from that knockdown, Tank was in control, and then the round before the actual stoppage or knockout happened, I thought I gave Ryan that round. I thought he did a little better work, landed a few more punches in that round as he was looking to try to regain control. But ultimately, yeah, I think that Tank Davis showed that, yeah, he does have a high IQ in there. He knows how to bide his time well. He knows when and where to throw his shots from. So he doesn't waste any motion. He doesn't waste punches. And you've seen in the past where some big punchers, they get that habit of thinking that, hey, I'm just going to take any chance I get because I have this eraser or whatnot. But Tank, he really takes his time. I guess you could consider him a counterpuncher in some regards, which is pretty impressive. And when he does land, it seems to land with very high authority. So got to give him props for that.
Yeah, it was definitely a battle of two counter punchers, and Tank just had the deeper arsenal. He's the smarter fighter, like you said. The IQ is better. Uh, Ryan Garcia is still kind of a work in progress. I mean, uh, yet to go. I think this bout, if he takes it in stride, could lead him to some long-awaited technical adjustments that will help him later in his career. I mean, he's a lot younger. He's 24 years old. Tank's 28, going on 29. Ryan Garcia definitely has some technical kinks to work out, defensively most notably. But I mean, there was some great sportsmanship after the fight. Hopefully, Ryan Garcia is able to mentally get himself back into that stratosphere of boxing and become a better fighter for it. But really what I'm most excited for now is the prospect of a Tank Davis versus the winner of Haney Lomachenko, Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson, which I think is becoming the fight to make in boxing. I think there's a lot of big opportunities for Tank at 135 and 140, which he's dabbled in before. We got Lomachenko to Lopez and Josh Taylor soon. There's a lot of big moves that Tank could make, so we'll have to see.
Good stuff. You pinpointed something that I actually tweeted out last night myself, but that's the prospect of Tank Davis taking it on Shakur Stevenson, who is now at 135 pounds. I wanted to get thoughts on that. So my co-host Boz, I wanted to ask him, and then you, Alden, how do you think that goes? So Boz, how do you think that goes? Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. Just thinking about it right now, we know Shakur's only had one fight at 135, but man, he looks so good.
Yeah, I think Shakur would give probably his toughest fight because he's got the chops, the technical skills also to do that. He's not a typical puncher destroyer type like Garcia. He's almost more like destroy or be destroyed. But Shakur is not that type. Of course, he can box. He can slug it out, but he is actually a boxer. First and foremost, I'd say. So yeah, I see Tank really having problems with Shakur, but as for who would have won that fight, well, that's a little bit more difficult to determine. I think it would have been probably sort of a 50-50 fight even perhaps, but yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff without a doubt. And Alden, knowing what Shakur and Tank both bring to the table, what are your thoughts on how that could potentially go? Because I think it is one of the best fights in boxing, especially right now that Shakur is in that mix at 135 pounds.
Yeah, I think Shakur, he looked especially strong at 135 in his first outing against Oshiro. I think a lot of people view this fight a little bit in a distorted manner. A lot of people think this is just boxer versus puncher, but I think they underestimate how strong Shakur Stevenson really is, both mentally and physically. I mean, he's not a one-punch knockout artist like Tank Davis is, but he's very strong, and he doesn't move because you make him move. I mean, he's very economical in there, and he kind of just fights on his own terms. Tank would probably be the first person that I've ever seen, the first fighter that I've ever seen that would have a chance to make Shakur fight on his terms instead of Shakur's own terms. It's a very tough fight to pick right now. I think Stevenson would it'd be in his best interest to get a little more fights under his belt at 135. He's only had the one fight at 135 right now. But, I mean, as they both said, especially Shakur, this is the fight that has to happen. I mean, this is a fight that is going to be the next mega fight, at least in American boxing circles.
Yeah, I do think it has the makings of one of those mega fights, and it seems like all roads are sort of leading towards that, you can say, because Shakur started to outgrow 130, and you're right, he looks more defined. You can just tell that 135 fits him well, and he looks very strong at 135 from what I was able to gather in seeing him against Yoshino, and he put on a boxing performance that we expect for Shakur Stevenson, where he pretty much just outduels a guy with that person, the other opponent he's facing barely winning a round, if winning a round. And I think that will continue to be the case. So we're not going to hold you too much longer, Alden, but one more fight we wanted to get your thoughts on real quick. And it kind of jumps to the UK, Sheffield, England, where we saw Cordina versus Rakhimove, and that turned out to be probably between all the fights that took place yesterday. That might have been the best one. Just thinking about the action, the back and forth, and it had high stakes. Of course, Cordina was looking to regain his title there, I believe featherweight. And Rakhimov was coming
Super
in to show
fair.
that, hey, he's the real deal. He's the guy who's got next, and he's going to continue to maintain his status there. And it was a real kind of 50-50 pick'em fight. And it ended up being a win for Cordina in what some thought was a close fight. And I do think it was close to a certain degree, but I had it like 117, 111, and I did think Cordina was a bit ahead leading into the actual final rounds. So what were your thoughts on that contest?
I'm gonna disappoint you by saying I wasn't able to catch the Cordina Rakhimov fight. I wish I was, and I will get to it eventually. But I've always been impressed by Joe Cordina. I think this was the type of fight for his development as a 130-pound fighter. I'd like to see him in against Josh Warrington in the future. Or a winner of Mauricio Lara versus Lee Wood in their second fight, the 126, 130-pound area. So, I mean, there's plenty of prospects. I'm going to have to watch the fight because I am a Cordina fan, but apologize, I don't have more thoughts than that right now.
All good. Yeah, no problem at all. But yeah, Cordina, yeah, he looks to have the goods for sure. And Lee Wood, Mauricio Lara too, that is going down. They were actually showing the trailers, highlights of that fight coming up. And I think that's going to be a very interesting one. That I could see Cordina Lara. That would be fireworks, or at least have the potential for fireworks. So that's one I definitely want to see. I know, Boz, you're down with that one as well because of course we've always discussed how Mauricio Lara has that type of pop that he can change the game at any moment. Cordina Lara, that would be a good one.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure. That will be just a war.
yeah, it has that potential right there. Cool, good stuff though. So yeah, Alden, we know you're on the road. Let you get back to your stuff. Chief of Officials, Virginia, y'all. Alden CHodash and Alden. How can people follow you on your accounts? Because I was mentioning that hey, you're the host of the Fight City podcast. The Fight City, you're a writer for FightCity.com. A lot of good stuff going on in the sport of boxing. How can people get in contact with you, Alden?
Yeah, you guys, I recommend everyone follow the Fight City on our Twitter account. We also have a Facebook page, but our Twitter account's pretty prolific. You could follow me if you're interested at Alden CHodash on Twitter or on Instagram, the real Alden CHodash. But yeah, shout out to the Fight City, and you guys are doing a great thing at 86 Boxing as well.
All right, appreciate it, Alden, and I'm dropping that in the chat as well, so everyone check out Alden CHodash. But thank you for dropping by, buddy, and we'll get you on again.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So that was Alden jumping into the mix there. Thanks everyone. It was, Alden. It was good to get his thoughts representing Fight City there. Fight Night Score says salute, glad to be back. Tank put on a clinic last night as ever. He gradually worked his opponent out and gets them out of there. Without a doubt, Jim, that seemed to be the case. Without a doubt, there where Tank just he took his time and he made sure that when he did land, it was something that was going to have the potential of changing the outcome of the fight, and that ultimately was the case there. And Hyphy says, speaking of that Fight Night scores, we are definitely going to need some explanation about round 2, which was scored 10-10 by one official, and the other two did not score 10-8. Yeah, I saw that. The Fight Night scores retweeted that as well. That is pretty crazy. I don't know if you saw that, Boz, but yeah, this is the round where Gervonta dropped Garcia. Now, I think Garcia was winning the round leading up to that point, but that being said, after he was dropped, he didn't change didn't change the outcome of what had actually happened. It was I felt still a 10-8 round. All of that other stuff went out the window because he was legitimately dropped and hurt by Tank. And to think
Yeah,
that
it
someone had
was.
it 10-10, like what the hell is going on with these people? Let alone not scoring at 10-8, but a 10-10. What the hell is
Yeah, I
going
mean,
on?
you can sort of understand if it's not a 10-8, but in a 10-10 fight with a knockdown, that's just crazy, And speaking of crazy scores, the Cordina Rakhimove, that decision, that one judge who had 116, 111 for Rakhimove.
Oh
How
yeah,
about that?
yeah,
That
that is
was
another one.
just,
Yeah, Cordina Rakhimov. Yeah, one judge did have Rakhimov winning, and
I mean, yeah. I
yeah,
was
I didn't
like,
agree. Just looking at,
yeah,
if you look at the fight from start to finish, and you just kind of look at how each looked at the end,
yeah.
you
I
couldn't
mean,
walk away from that. I felt saying that Rakhimov won. That's just my opinion, but some people thought it was
yeah,
closer than what it was. Even Tony Bellew had it, I guess, even going into the
a
final
draw,
round,
yeah.
but I
He
didn't see
was,
it.
that was also quite ridiculous. But I mean, so far, I mean, it was a competitive fight. Yeah, you can say, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, even Corina was in trouble in the fifth round, but that was pretty much all. I mean, that when he was in real trouble, and he landed tons of big punches on Rakhimov, and yeah, I mean, some people are saying it was a very close fight. No, I wouldn't agree. It wasn't a very close fight because Corina was clearly dominant. I mean, and I also scored it. I gave Rakhimov 3 rounds, I believe, so 117, 110 with the knockdown, also. And
Mm-hmm.
just Cordina was simply so much better. And Rakhimov tried, but he couldn't, really get to land so many big punches. Of course,
Yeah.
he has such a technique, I guess, punching technique that it is not really. I mean, against Alpha Barrett, it was effective, but not against Cordina because
Yeah.
he's pretty
Right.
slick. He's got really good defense and movement and all that. He's fast also.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was very impressed. His last fight was an impressive victory in its own way because he knocked out the fire Ogawa, was it, with
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
punch?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Tabichi Igawa.
yeah, with one punch. But this
Okay.
was this was even more impressive because he went
Yeah.
12 rounds and was dominant pretty
It,
much you know most of the time.
in one of those rounds, he did get hurt by Rakhimov, and he had to hold on. But I thought
Yeah,
he weathered the storm and showed that hey, he can
yeah,
go
he
through
came
adversity
back.
as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, that's right. He came back at the end of the same round. So
Yep. So he can overcome adversity. So big props to Joe Cordina.
yeah.
Fight Night Score says,
Huge.
damn, those two round two scores were suspect. Yes, sir, they were very suspect. Fight Night
That's
Score says Tank versus Haney or Shakir will be close fights, but I think I still pick Davis to beat them both. Interesting, as I alluded to in a previous discussion on our stream. Interesting there, Fight Night Scores. Hey, I'm not gonna say it's a wrong pick or whatever, but I think that Shakir Stevenson is
We know you are Shakur fanboy. Yeah, but I think he is good enough, definitely, to beat Tank. He's got the talent. So the only question is, will he be able to avoid those punches? The counter punches that are so deadly from Tank. But if he manages to do that, then he definitely can win. Because as Ryan Garcia said after the fight, I mean, Tank hasn't been very active in his last few fights. He's been like winning by one punch and stuff like that. And against Rolly Romero, as we talked before, he didn't land that many punches, but he won with
yeah.
one punch.
When he did land,
So,
he made it count.
yeah.
That's
So
kind of
he,
how it
I don't
goes.
know if that's what he really wanted to do, but yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be interesting, and I think Devin Haney's right there in the mix as well. I think any combination of them are very close fights because Haney he seems to have the goods. and he can box well.
Yeah,
You know, he can take a punch. At least he took
he can.
the punch from Lenara as he was hurt a little bit, but he still withstood such and came on. Cambosos was unable to touch him, and Cambosos was able to touch up Teofimo Lopez. Now, some of that might have been
Yeah.
due to Teofimo's strategy and all, but Haney pretty much washed Cambosos. I don't know if Cambosos won a round against Haney in 2 fights.
But
I
he's
don't know
not a
for sure.
puncher,
At
so
least I don't recall him winning the round. He
yeah,
may have gotten 1 or 2 there, but I don't think there was ever any doubt who the better fighter was. So I think, yeah,
right.
between Haney, Tank, and Shakur, any combination of those fights that you mentioned, fight night scores would be great. So
Yeah, of
hopefully we get to see them
course.
happen.
And, everybody has wanted to see Lomachenko fight Tank for a long time, so it's a shame that didn't happen before. But if it
Yeah,
happened now, I don't know if Loma would be, how much he has got left in the tank, the
yeah,
pun
right.
intended.
Mhm.
uh, yeah, so
Yeah,
I don't think that would have been a really even fight. I mean, considering that Loma is no longer at his peak, so would have been a fair fight. So let's
yeah,
put it that way.
it'll be interesting. I think that, of course, Loma on top of his game is a very destructive fighter. I mean, he's top notch, top level, and he had uh he had to do a lot and go through a lot to defeat Jermaine. I
Yeah,
can't remember his last name, Jermaine Ortiz, and
Ortiz.
I think that was coming out for after a decent layoff, of course, dealing with the stuff that is taking place in Ukraine. And I thought that he did well against a young, bigger, seemingly stronger fighter in Ortiz, who exceeded the expectations of many, I believe.
Hmm.
Now, I feel that, of course, Loma is going to be focused in this fight. He's going to come in and give his best. And yeah, at this point, I guess he's mid 30s. And yeah, he may not be the same sort of speed
Yeah,
demon and mover that he was, but he's still very skilled. He wasn't far off from that Nakatani destruction. So after he lost to Teofimo Lopez, he destroyed Nakatani. So if we
yeah,
see that version of Lomachenko, I think it's going to be a long night for Devin Haney. Whether we see that version of him, of course, is a question. Either way, I think that it should be a very interesting fight. And in sports, I think with the majority of them, tends to be youth prevails in most cases, but sometimes the
hmm.
wisdom comes through. You know, you have a LeBron James playing for 20 plus years, and he goes in and he does his thing. But of course, you know, running into Giannis is a different story, you know, for LeBron if he had to play him, just by example. So maybe Haney is that youthful force that will kind of end things for Lomachenko in his quest there at 135, but we'll see, you know.
Yeah, so I mean, some experts anyway seem to think that way. I mean, quite many, I guess. Yeah, and it's of course understandable because Haney did has looked good, and he's unbeaten and he's a slick boxer and all that.
Yeah.
And Loma has, been having some uneven performances the last couple of years, So
Yeah.
yeah, but we'll see. Yeah, of course.
We will. Shout out to Rodolfo Rivera Jr. who says, "What up, y'all? Appreciate you dropping by, Rodolfo. Took long enough. Where you been, buddy? Anyway, had a great night watching the fights with my friends. I haven't seen in a while since they're in college at UC Davis. Okay, good to go. Hey, that's good stuff. No better way to enjoy boxing than watching with some good friends and all. So this was
Yeah,
the type of event last night. I know there was a lot of fanfare even amongst the casual fans, those that typically don't watch boxing, which I think is a plus for the sport in itself. Then Fight Night Score says I didn't catch the Cordina Rakhimove. Uh, or I didn't see the Cordina Rakhimov the same as the judges or a lot of people on Twitter. Lots had
hmm.
it close. I thought there were competitive rounds, but Cordina did more in them. I gave Rakhimov 3 rounds, I think. Yeah, I agree with you there.
Hmm.
I agree
Yeah,
with you,
we
Fight
agree.
Night Scores. I thought that I thought that it was not as close as like, oh, this is gonna be one round, 1 round swing or whatever. I thought that if you look at who had the most impactful punches, in addition to being the one who did more overall, I thought that was Cordina when he was landing some of his shots, especially those straights. They seemed to be rocking Rakhimove, and of course
Yeah,
Rakhimove has some good punches and all of that stuff. But if you, I just did not see that close nature of a number of those rounds that some saw. I guess you could say maybe output wise there were some similarities, but as far as impact and how the punches were landing and the reaction towards such, I just felt like it was Cordina all the way. And I thought it was a
yeah,
very competitive fight, one that I'd even be cool seeing it again because I think both of them would bring it. But I certainly did not see it as a 1 round swing type fight or a 2 round swing type fight. I had it 117, 111, as mentioned. But, I gave Rakhimov probably more rounds than like yourself or another, but I can't remember exactly. But in addition to that, Cordina dropped him. And I think that speaks volume. And then if you just look at them after the fight, you look at one fight, you look at the other,
yeah,
there's no question as who do you would rather have been, and I think
yeah.
that's Joe Cordina. But of course,
Huge, huge,
people see
huge
things
difference.
differently.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It
people see
was
things
just I
differently.
don't know. These people, I don't know how they could see it as a really close fight, but I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of bias in there. I don't know, but I
I
don't
think
see
that tells you
why
that
it
was a
would
good
be.
fight. Then I guess you can say when you
Yeah,
have this type of sort of back and forth and varying differences. And I did think that the just based on looking at how Tony Bellew's stuff was and what they were reporting on, I felt that the scores were probably going to be all over the place, which they kind of
yeah.
were. And
I'm just pissed that those scores that were for Corina were a lot closer than the one that was for Rakhimov. That was so unfair.
yeah,
It would give somebody, because those who haven't watched the fight, it would give them the impression that maybe Corina got a hometown decision or something.
yeah, right. Yeah,
That's what really makes me angry. And
yeah,
he was
I
so,
definitely don't think it was that. And
yeah, he was so dominant, so good. I mean, to get that, come on.
especially considering he's been out for near a year. I don't know if it's been a full
Yeah,
year or what, but he's been out for a while.
yeah. Also, I think last fight was either in May or June last year. I think.
Yeah, so he's been out for a good minute, and
Yeah,
dealing with the hand injury at that.
yeah. Now as you said, he can fight. Of course, the winner of Lara Wood too, or
Yeah.
there are some other. Of course, you got Hector Garcia, Oscar Valdez. Of course.
Oh yeah, that is right. So
So of
this was this
course,
130 or 126?
130, 130.
130.
Of
Okay, I think I had said
course,
featherweight, so super featherweight.
yeah, he probably will not be taking on any of these guys right away in his first defense, probably, but maybe soon after that, I would like to see him fight. Maybe the Lara, for
Yeah.
starters, and then maybe somebody like
Is
Garcia.
Navarrete is he at 126 or 130?
He's 26, I believe.
Okay, 26. I was gonna
Yeah,
say
I
that'll
think
be an
so.
interesting one, though I think
I'm not
Cordina
sure.
could dissect Navarrete.
Yeah, he was at
Yeah, so I think he started at
22.
122.
Yeah, no, it's just
So
126 sides.
interesting. But yeah, that is hey, props to Cordina without a doubt. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says
Yeah,
congrats on 1.5K subs, 86. Just know hey, appreciate you, buddy. Keeping that work going, keeping things going. Got a video gonna drop hopefully today, maybe in the middle of the night. We'll see. I think it should be a good one. It's taking a little time. But yeah,
well,
appreciate it. Thank you to everyone else who
yeah.
contributed to that.
I just remembered another thing that Martin Bakoli, he was in action also, I believe, in
Oh yeah.
Poland last night. He
Oh
won by
yeah,
stop.
Martin Bacoli. Yeah, he was on that Babbage card.
Yeah, the Babbage, the disaster.
And Michael Ceslik, whatever his name is, won as well.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, you're right.
Hi,
Well,
Keith.
yeah,
Hyphy says, I enjoyed seeing Cordina come back looking good after the layoffs, fighting to reclaim the title he wrongfully lost. Good stuff, Hyphy. Yeah, same here. Agree. You know, he was dealing with an injury, legitimate one at that. So it was good to see him come back in the mix. He didn't let it wear him down. He looked as good as ever, as far as I'm concerned, in what would likely be considered his stiffest test ever. And I mean, I think the sky's the limit for him. It's only up from here as he continues to move forward. I take it, Hyphy, you might have shared same sentiments as far as Cordina seemed to be the clear winner there, though some had it close. And it wasn't a blowout or anything, but I thought he was a clear winner in this fight. And Cordina deserves props. I think he's a name up there you have to watch. You just think about the potential he had coming out of the amateur ranks. I believe he's an Olympian, if I'm not mistaken. And hey, I think he's living up to it now. He's gotten that opportunity, and I think as long as injury doesn't, you know, creep its head back in again, especially considering hand injuries, then I think he can do some great things.
Yeah, you know, I think he's like 31. Actually, I thought he was younger, but you know, he's he's a mature fighter. Definitely, it can be an advantage as long as you are not, you know, too in your late 30s and stuff.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
thinking
in
about
your
wear and tear and all that stuff, he hasn't had that wear and tear of sorts
yeah,
outside of the injury to his hand and all that. But just from a fight by fight perspective, he hasn't had
yeah,
that wear and tear. And this was probably the toughest one. So he took some shots, a little bit of damage in this fight, but he handled it well and he moves very well. So with that type of
yeah. That
mentality
was
and the ability to do so, I think that favors him certainly in terms of
hmm.
getting into these back
Yeah,
years of the career.
yeah. Now is his time to really shine. You know, and you know. I think he will. I mean, what he really displayed last night, that was, you know, star quality performance, definitely.
Oh
He's
yeah,
a
without a doubt. So Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says, "Is there any good boxing events this upcoming weekend?" I just know Canelo is fighting soon, but that's gonna happen next week after this one. Yeah, that will be the Cinco de Mayo event of the weekend, of course, when that actually goes down. But I think there are some
Yete de
pretty
Mayo.
decent fights that are coming up right now. So Saturday,
Yeah,
April 29th, which is next weekend, is gonna be William Zapata against
yeah.
Dominican fighter Arabelda. I don't know if I
Also, I think. Oh no, that's in June. Sorry, I saw that on, as a, you know, how do you say it on the zone last night. They were talking about upcoming fights. I know that Adames is fighting in June, but that is in June against some guy Williams. Thinking on the zone. Hmm.
Oh, okay.
Can't wait to
It's in
see that.
June. Yeah, probably June. So yeah. Okay, yeah. It looks like yeah, Rodolfo looks like the only card next week, at least listed here where I'm looking, that I guess would be a marquee, a high profile card is William Zapata making his return. It's gonna be in the zone. It's going down in looks like Texas, I believe.
Well, blame that on Tyson Fury. We could have had him versus Usyk
Yeah, it was
next.
supposed to go down on the 29th, right? It was supposed to
Yeah.
go down then.
Oh man.
Diego De La Hoya is going to be on that Williams Zapata card. Remember
Oh,
him, right? Diego De La
William.
Hoya, nephew of
Yeah, Diego. Yeah,
Oscar.
yeah, yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like I
I
haven't
know.
seen him in forever.
Yeah, he is a pretty good prospect. Yeah.
Did Ronnie Rios beat him? I think. Let me see. Somebody beat him in or was it Ray Vargas? I'm gonna look it up because I can't remember.
Probably. I don't know. Maybe.
I believe it was one of those two. But yeah, I feel like the momentum kind of shifted. Yeah, it was Ronnie Rios. So Ronnie Rios beat
Ronnie
Diego De La
Rios.
Hoya in 2019, and I feel like some of the momentum kind of waned from there. But he did fight once in 2019 again that December, and then he didn't fight again until July of 2022. So he's fought. This is his third fight since this will be his third fight since July of 2022, and he's going to be taking on a Victor Morales, who is coming in 17-0. He's out of Vancouver, Washington, and I'm just looking at
Actually,
his record. He hasn't fought anyone high
this is
profile or
weird. It says that Isaac Dogway is fighting on the 27th, but he had a fight on the 1st this month. I don't know how he can. That was a 12 rounder against Robesi
No way
Ramirez.
that's happening.
Yeah, it must be a mistake. And at the same time, he's actually up for 2 fights at the same time registered on. Must be a mistake, I'm sure, a boxer.
Yeah, must be planning ahead, I guess.
Yeah.
Rodolfo Rivera said that Chief Keith's interest was something else, though. Yeah, so yeah, that was tight, though. No, I'm with you, Rodolfo. Okay, I'm gonna for sure watch that Zepeda fight. Yeah, it should be an interesting one. I haven't seen that guy. I don't believe that he's taking on. He's out of the Dominican Republic, which he probably will be a pretty solid boxer from a fundamental standpoint. So that'll make things interesting. Zepeda is seemingly one of these kind of big punchers who you have to always watch as a threat anytime he's in punch wise, and he's a name that has been thrown out there to face Jaron Ennis, which would be interesting given Zepeda's pot. As a matter of fact, I thought that fight was going to happen prior to this, but that being said, maybe he wins, or if he wins, then maybe we see Zepeda versus Jaron Ennis, which will be a pretty interesting fight. But I think Ennis might be taking on Ruben Villa, which I think will be a very good fight as well, because Villa is one of those guys who has that game-changing type of pop in his punches. He's an Argentine fighter, or no, Colombian, actually. And from a skill standpoint, of course, Ennis will have the edge, probably have the speed as well, and the footwork, but the punch may be on the side of Villa so far based on what we see, so he should make it interesting. So maybe, and I don't know if that fight's scheduled. I need to actually see. I'm going to see if it's actually scheduled because that's when they were talking about, as a matter of fact. I posted as a Zepeda fight. But yeah, Ennis versus Villa would be, so it looks like, no, that's not scheduled, but I don't know. So we'll see what happens actually. Because Zepeda, he fights at, or Zepeda at 140. Let me see. Like, oh no, he's at 135. So yeah, it's not Zepeda then. So Zepeda is a name that was thrown out there with Shakur Stevenson actually. So we'll see if that actually happens. But yeah, Ennis versus Villa is one at 147 that was thrown out there. Similar to Zepeda in the sense that Villa is a kind of big puncher type fighter, and we'll see if any of that materializes. Time will tell. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says, I haven't seen Diego in forever too. Did you guys know that Zepeda's nickname is Cameron, which means shrimp in Spanish? Because he's light skinned and his skin turns red, but I don't know. The shrimp. Yeah, didn't know that. Thanks for that nugget there, Rodolfo. We're dropping nuggets here.
That usually,
Luke Paul Bright. Big
when
shout
they
out
say
Paul
you are,
Bright. Appreciate you dropping by.
When they call somebody shrimpy, they usually mean he's small, right? Small size.
Yeah, it does get associated with that for sure. You see that thrown in the mix there. But yeah, salute Paul Bright. Appreciate you dropping in, buddy. Yeah, we were talking boxing. We've gotten through a good bit of it, and we're looking at what's ahead. Not a huge fight or not a huge card this weekend, but of course the week after is the Cinco de Mayo weekend, and we know Cinco de Mayo is Canelo de Mayo, and he's going to be taking on John Ryder. It's going to be going down in Mexico, so I think this will be the first fight for Canelo in Mexico in a very, very long time, I want to say. Let me see. When's the last time he actually fought in Mexico? But it should be a good one. Of course, betting favorites and conventional wisdom will be leaning towards Canelo Alvarez, and I do think Canelo will get this W. It's just a matter of whether Ryder can stand the test of time. So Canelo, this will be his first fight in Mexico since 2011 when he took on Kermit Cintron in Mexico City. Talk about a name you haven't heard in a while, Kermit Cintron.
That's like takes you back to 2010s, when you hear Kermit.
Yeah, right. So this will be his first fight in Mexico since 2011. It's pretty crazy. He was a young guy then. So he's about 20, I want to say. Well, what is he right now? Like 30?
He's like
31?
32, 33. I don't know, something like that. I think he's
Okay.
born in 1990. So yeah, he should be
Okay,
like.
yeah. So yeah, this will be his first fight in a good while. Yeah, he's a youngster back then, uh,
Yeah.
and I think it's going to be a big event there in Mexico. Of course, I'm sure they're
Mm.
going to be happy to have him. That's how he started out. Making his waves and rounds across Mexico, building that name up, and he was a star before he even started to fight here in the U.S. So it's going to be a big event there, without a
Yeah, but
doubt.
I remember when he was gonna fight for a first world title. Some Mexican boxers were. I know Marquez was like, he should not fight for a world title so young. He was only 20. I think. He hadn't done so much. So there were some protests. I remember.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's crazy. It's
Mm.
crazy how that is.
When he
The
beat
commission
Matthew
rules.
Hatton, I think that was when he won his first title. Yeah.
Yeah, these commissions are crazy.
Yeah.
But
Matthew
anyway,
Hatton.
but there have been youngsters who won titles. I mean, that's happened in the history of boxing. So
Yeah, he was just being really, carefully managed or promoted by the West. So he obviously set him up just to win that, win his first world title. And Matthew Hatton was a perfect
oh
opponent.
yeah, I remember. Yeah, Matthew Hatton.
Very, very beatable guy. For
Yeah,
Canelos.
yeah, yeah, certainly. Rodolfo Rivera said, "You already know I'm gonna have a blast on Cinco de Mayo, without a doubt." She'll be a big one, very good one. Looking
Cinco
forward
de
to that
Mayo.
for sure. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. Yeah, that fight is being marketed heavy in the state of Jalisco. My parents told me there's Canelo posters everywhere they visited last week. All right, yeah, it's going to be a huge turnout, I believe. I don't know exactly where it's going down in terms of arena wise or stadium, but I'd imagine that turnout's going to be huge. And Mexico is going to show his buying power, or Canelo is going to show his buying power, because I do think he
Maybe.
still is the top dog in boxing as far as the face of boxing. Though, yeah, they mentioned that on the Showtime broadcast. Is Tank the face of boxing? He's getting up there, but no doubt Canelo is still that guy until dethroned.
I think Guadalajara is in Jalisco State. Maybe that's where it's gonna
Yeah,
be.
it is. Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah,
That's where he's from, I believe, Guadalajara,
yeah. The
and
second,
that's where they make
yeah,
mezcal or tequila, one of the two, but it may be mezcal.
it's the second largest city in Mexico. I know. Huh.
Guadalajara. Yeah, should be
Guadalajara,
interesting.
Guadalajara.
I wonder if El
Uh-huh.
Chapo is gonna go check out the fight.
Yeah.
But it's good stuff. But yeah, that's what's coming. That's what's going down the week after. Valenzuela versus Spark is going to be on the undercard. That should be a good fight. Gavozic is going to be making his return against Bolotniks.
All
That should
right.
be a decent fight right there. Then you're going to have Julio Cesar Martinez taking on a fighter by the name of Batista from the Dominican Republic. It's going to be at flyweight. Martinez, exciting fighter, of course. So we'll see how he handles things there. Uh, I'm gonna have Kurbanov Soro in a card in Russia as well, and Joshua Buatsi is gonna be on a card this same weekend. He's taking on the guy I believe that was going to face Caleb Smith, Stepping, Stepping. I don't know exactly.
Step in, fetch it.
Yeah, Stepping or something like that. So that's May 6th. So a lot of boxing going to be on May
Callum,
6th. But yeah, that's kind of
Callum.
what's in store and what's in the mix right now. Rodolfo Rivera said, yeah, Jalisco is the land of tequila. So that's what it is. Cool.
I
Good
don't
stuff.
think I ever had the tequila. I heard it's very strong, so I probably wouldn't like it.
Oh, yeah, you got to try some tequila. You got to try some. I'm going to have to get some of that legit stuff where it goes down
Tequila.
at Mexico over there.
Actually, you know what? I was once sent like a margarita by this lady that I used to talk to from Florida.
Oh, your
So
lady friend sent you something?
yeah, it was margarita. How she told me how to to do everything, how to
Oh
make it.
yeah, yeah, it is right. You can make it happen with the mix there. Say all he
So
needs is
that's
tequila.
like there's tequila in that, right? In
Yeah,
margarita.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know what else is there. What they put in
I
it.
think there are margarita mixes out there that are mixed up. You mix the tequila with
Right.
the margarita mix,
Let's
then
ask Rodolfo what else is
you
in
put a little salt
margarita.
on the rim and get a lime, put it on the rim,
Pineapple,
and I think you're good. Rodolfo
maybe
says,
some.
"Oh yeah, a bunch of narcos gonna be in the crowd." Yes, sir. They're gonna be in attendance. It's gonna be live out there. Paul Bright. I was about to say the same thing. Canelo is the face of boxing these days. Yep, without a doubt, there, Paul. Until otherwise, Canelo is still the man, and I think this Guadalajara
Yeah,
fight is going to show that to be the case right there. And I think it's going to be a huge event over there. Again, against John Ryder out of the UK, who is going to put up a decent fight, I'd imagine. But Canelo
well,
should get the job done,
let's
of
be
course.
fair. Bivol did beat Canelo, so that would technically mean that he is now the new face.
Oh yeah, yeah. I guess I could argue that, but certainly Canelo's that guy.
Yeah, he's got the record, resume, how you call it. He's got
Mhm.
the strongest record of the fighters still
Yeah,
active, definitely. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I think that is the case. If
Mm.
you really look at some of those names he had when he was fighting back down at 154, for instance, he's got some top level names on his resume overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best one in
Yeah.
boxing right now, as far as active fighters, you have to say he has the top
Yeah,
one.
very like impressive. Just that he was able to knock out Kovalev. I mean, a much bigger guy actually, and
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Triple G. At least in the last fight, he surely won that one. We
Oh
can
yeah. No
all
question,
agree
right
on that.
there.
The
No
first two,
questioning at all.
you are like, who really won which fight? We don't know, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. Hypey says I'm going to Mexico next weekend. All my boxing amigos, place your souvenir orders now. Okay, let's go, Hypey. Let's go.
Fred Sanford going to Mexico.
Mhm. Hypey gonna be in Mexico. Let's go. Let's do it. I haven't been. I've been to Mexico a few times, but I haven't been to Guadalajara. I need to make
Mm.
that happen.
You know, I know there's the big lake not far from Guadalajara. I'm good in geography, that's why I know.
Okay, good stuff. I like a little geography.
Yeah, it's cool.
Good to
I know
know.
what it's called also.
Good to know your lay of the land. You know what I'm saying? Rodolfo
Yeah.
Rivera Jr. said, "Yeah, Canelo got the best resume of any active fighter. I think ever since Pac-Man retired. Yes, certainly, of course, since Pac. But then again, Pac was interviewed
Mm.
last night. We'll see
Oh,
if
yeah.
Pac-Man is going to be
Fact,
making a
man.
return. But he said he's going to be doing an exhibition in June or
Hmm.
July, one of the two. And
Yeah,
then he's thrown his name out there in the mix, saying that he's not retired. But we'll see if he actually fights a real fight."
you know how it is. It's hard to stay retired or retire for good with these guys, especially
Yeah.
now. you know.
Yeah, and then with Pac, he didn't win the presidency he was running for. I'd imagine if he would won that, he may have stayed retired. But now, of course,
What a what a bummer.
yeah, yeah. But hey, he made it pretty far to be up there in the mix, especially being a boxer.
That
So
shows in politics today. It doesn't help how big you are a celebrity,
yeah, yeah.
it
Depending on the
doesn't get
country, I guess you can say.
yeah, it doesn't help you win an election.
But take the hat off. But also
Yeah,
I was gonna say that yeah, Pac-Man, he's got a deal with Ryzen, the
Pac-Man.
fight group out of Japan. It's called Ryzen. They usually focus on MMA, but
Oh,
Pacquiao signed a deal with them, so he's going to be doing a number of exhibitions with them, as far as I know. And this will be the second. He did an exhibition, I believe it was last year, tail
right.
end of last year, or maybe been at the beginning of this year, but this will be his second exhibition with Ryzen, and I think they have more in store. And we'll see if he actually has a real fight per se.
Hmm.
Um, Rodolfo says, "What part you going to? Buy me a Chivas jersey, hyphy. I'll cash after you." Chivas, there's good stuff.
Chivas. Chivas Regal. That's supposed to be the best one.
Sonora and Hot Dog there, Hyphy. We need to see what's up with that. Canelo, Estrada, Chocolatito, Nonito, those guys have top tier resumes without a doubt. Those are some guys you definitely have to throw there in the mix. See, putting everybody on game there, Hyphy. People just see some of the names and they just think, oh yeah, they had a top resume, but no, look at these guys that get it. They sometimes get ignored. Estrada, he's still a top 10 fighter right there. We're just waiting on that next matchup for him. I want to see him and Bam Rodriguez eventually. Think about Latino still on his game. Still has a top level resume. Nonito Daenerys, yeah, excellent resume. The guy who's put on many great performances.
Estrada, yeah, also Chocolate. Yeah, it's like, these guys are, they are definitely going into the boxing Hall of Fame when they retire.
Without a doubt, top level guys right there, top level.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. It's good stuff. But yeah, that's what's going down. I mean,
that's what's
Heike said, speaking of Pacquiao, there's still a company suing him because they claim he signed a boxing promo deal with them and the company advanced Pacquiao $3 million US. Interesting. So I imagine that'll be interesting how that plays into the mix, of course. That's very interesting right there. So he was able to somehow broker this deal with Ryzen, but that is based in Japan, so maybe that's where kind of the difference lies as far as
it's kind of the hotbed of Asian boxing, East Asia. Yeah.
But imagine they put on some pretty solid shows. Rising,
not just that's true. That not just boxing. Also, I mean that's where before when MMA wasn't allowed in USA, it was held in Japan. K1.
Pride was there.
Yeah, Pride.
Rising is essentially kind of a rebirth of Pride, from my understanding. Shout out to Random Acoustic Thoughts. He talks about it all the time. But they have the superior rule set or whatever, where you can do stomps and soccer kicks, which you can't do here in the U.S. apparently. But one of those things. Hello, guys. Happy Sunday, son and Boz. Shout out to my mom. Appreciate you dropping by. Salute. I'm going to give you a call when we were talking about some stuff. And then Rodolfo, all those guys underrated too. That's great. Heike, Julio Cesar Chavez is originally from Sonora, but he moved to Sinaloa. I think Oscar Valdez is from Sonora too. Oscar Valdez. I was able to check him out live in 2017 in Tucson, Arizona. So legit stuff. All right, cool. But it's about that time. I know you're getting sleepy there, Bob. We've been going for an hour 17, which is
it's not so late yet, but I was like,
this is a short show, I would say. It was short.
Yeah. I was like, we are probably gonna talk for 2 hours, but somehow
unless there's some history questions out there.
Yeah, we got it done in under 1 hour 20 minutes. It seems.
Unless there's some history questions out there, we can go on with the history discussion. Speaking of such, I will just say, since it's on this podcast, I'm about to drop a video, and it's going to be on the great Tommy Ryan. So if you're listening, it's going to be on Tommy Ryan. Look at there. There's a little nugget, a little sneak peek. Been working on it, so it should be pretty solid. He had a pretty solid career overall. Top notch. He had some good names on his resume. He was very much an innovative boxer, thinking about it from his elusive standpoint, his skill set, and how he was able to accomplish and do what he do, apply his trade, just from a fundamental standpoint. So he is one that many rank amongst the greatest of all time, especially thinking about the welterweight and middleweight divisions. So it's good to go. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says, I'm down for this history discussion. Of course.
No, it's too late. You should have come here earlier.
I'll be looking forward to it. 86. Thanks, Paul Bright. Appreciate you, buddy. Says that's going to be a great video. 86. Yes, indeed. Been working on it. So, hopefully I have it finished here tonight or something of that nature. Or at the very least tomorrow night, maybe. We'll see how it goes, but definitely looking forward to it to add to the mix there. Hey, we're always going to be jumping in the mix on the history front, and then gonna be jumping right back in working another. So got to keep them going. But we
Yeah.
love to have those history discussions.
By the way, just wanted to mention something. You mentioned Calvin Smith earlier.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know what's going on with him. He was supposed to fight, I think, in late March. That got canceled.
yeah. He's fighting. He
Now,
was supposed to fight that guy that Joshua Boachi is now gonna be fighting.
yeah, and now he still hasn't got a fight scheduled. I don't know, and he hasn't fought since I think August
Was it
last
an
year.
injury?
I don't know. I think it might have been an injury, but I'm not sure. Probably. But
Interesting.
that's something weird. I don't know, man. I hope he's
Well,
not.
we'll see
Yeah,
what's up. Hopefully, it's not a promotional deal issue.
yeah, that's what it could be. Also, I hope not. Yeah, that would be a shame. He's
Oh yeah,
still got a
Rodolfo
lot.
mentioned, wasn't he a mandatory for Better BF or something? Yeah, he may have been. I know his name was tossed out there up in the mix, of course.
Yeah, that would have been a great fight. I hope it happens, but you never
Yeah,
know.
interesting. So yeah, we'll see what goes down with Caleb Smith when he jumps back in the mix. But I do think
Mundo.
he's still certainly a top level fighter, and
Oh
it'll be good
yeah.
to see him in there with a top level 175 pounder because it'll be
Mm.
interesting for sure.
He's got real genuine power, also.
Yes, he does. He does. So cool. All right, yeah, we appreciate everyone dropping by.
All
Of
right.
course, we're gonna end this thing, but we'll be back. Boz is rushing me to close the show out, so we'll end this thing now. No, I'm just kidding. That's
No.
all good. We'll end the thing. But yeah, we'll be back in the mix here next week. Of course, we'll be in dialogue and chatting in the comment sections and all that good stuff. So appreciate everyone dropping by. Adios, Paul Bright. Everyone else who dropped in. Hyphy, my mom, Rodolfo, Fight Night Scores, Bruce Gas, Martin Dunstan, etc., etc. Everyone who will be listening, we appreciate everyone. And oh yeah, lastly, I'm gonna be back in the mix with Fight Night Scores next week. We're gonna be starting
Cool.
that back as well. So
Yeah.
noon
Nice.
Eastern time is when things kick off. We're gonna be on there with Fight Night Scores back in that mix. Of course, and go sign up for a Fight Night Scores account, fight-score.com. So yeah, salute to you, Jim. But yeah, outside of that, everyone have a good rest of your weekend.